You've heard the story of the apple. You've heard the name Newton. But do you know the man behind the myth? The one who discovered the laws of motion and tried to turn metal into gold, who predicted the apocalypse and stuck a needle into his eye just to understand light. This isn't just the story of a scientist. It's the story of Sir Isaac Newton, the man who redefined our universe and lived a life stranger than fiction. Isaac Newton was born on Christmas Day, 1642, but it wasn't a celebration. His father had died 3 months earlier. He was born so premature, so tiny. People said he could fit inside a quart mug. At just 3 years old, his mother left him behind to remarry. Newton was raised by his grandparents. The trauma stayed with him. Years later, he wrote in a notebook of scenes, threatening to burn my mother and her husband in their house. He didn't play with other kids. He built sundials. He tinkered with windmills. A lonely child, obsessed with how the world worked and determined to find answers. In 1665, the bubonic plague ravaged England. Newton, then a student at Cambridge, went into lockdown, returning to his childhood home, Woolsthorpe Manor. What followed was one of the most productive quarantines in human history. He used a prism to show that white light is made of all the colors. He built the first reflecting telescope, and while sitting in his orchard, he saw an apple fall and asked a revolutionary question. If gravity pulls the apple down, could it also keep the moon in orbit? It wasn't just a theory, it was a cosmic breakthrough. But Newton didn't stop there. The math of the time couldn't describe planetary motion, so he invented a whole new branch of mathematics, calculus. Newton didn't publish right away. He was obsessed with perfection and terrified of criticism. While others published and debated, Newton kept his discoveries to himself. So when German mathematician Gottfried Leibniz published his work, Uncalculus, in 1684, Newton claimed, "I discovered it first." 20 years earlier, a brutal war of words began. Newton used his influence as president of the Royal Society to discredit Leibniz. Today, most historians agree they discovered it independently, but Newton didn't care for fairness. He cared about being remembered. In 1687, Newton finally released his masterpiece, Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica, or simply, the Principia. In it, he laid out the law of universal gravitation, his 3 laws of motion still taught in schools today. He explained why planets move, why rockets fly, and why you don't float off your chair. He didn't just describe nature. He gave it rules and proved that the universe could be understood with math. But Newton's mind wasn't limited to physics. In secret, he studied something else, something older, stranger, alchemy. For 25 years, he worked in silence. Late at night, by flickering candlelight, he wrote coded recipes and symbolic diagrams, hiding his notes from the world. He wasn't just trying to turn lead into gold. He believed in the philosopher's stone, a mythical substance said to unlock the secrets of matter, heal all wounds, and grant immortality. To some, it was fantasy. To Newton, it was forbidden truth, a lost science from a purer time. He believed that ancient knowledge had been buried, not disproven, and he intended to resurrect it. Was it science? Was it madness? Maybe it was both, but this pursuit came at a cost. Years later, scientists tested strands of Newton's preserved hair. The results? Extremely high levels of mercury, a toxic metal common in alchemical experiments. It likely affected his mind, his body, his emotions. In 1693, everything unraveled. He became paranoid. He accused friends of betrayal, imagined plots against him. He stopped sleeping. He couldn't think clearly. His letters from that time are wild, erratic, and desperate. It was the lowest point of his life, a breakdown so severe that for over a year he disappeared from public view. The same man who once held the laws of the universe in his hands now struggled to hold on to his own mind, a genius unraveling not because he failed, but because he refused to stop searching. And then, there was Newton, the theologian. Few people know this, but Newton wrote more on religion than he ever did on science. While others saw the Bible as spiritual guidance, Newton saw it as a puzzle, a divine cipher waiting to be unlocked. He filled notebook after notebook, searching for patterns in scripture, aligning ancient prophecies with astronomical events. He believed that beneath the poetry and parables were mathematical truths. And his conclusion? The world would end in the year 2060, not in myth, not in fire, but through a calculated collapse, a long period of war, suffering, and chaos, followed by the second coming of Christ in a new divine age. He wasn't warning people. He wasn't preaching. He was predicting, with the same intensity he used to measure falling apples and orbiting moons. Newton also rejected the Holy Trinity, a dangerous stance at the time. To him, the church had distorted God's message. He believed in one God and one truth, and devoted decades to uncovering it. He even served briefly in Parliament, but he wasn't there to make speeches. In fact, the only thing he's reported to have said in the House of Commons was, "Please, shut the window." He wasn't interested in politics. He was interested in revelation. To Newton, the universe wasn't just governed by natural laws. It was designed with divine intention. And to truly understand reality, you had to study both. He was a scientist, and a prophet, and he saw no contradiction in being both. Later in life, Newton took on a very different kind of challenge. He became warden, and then master of the Royal Mint. England's currency was in chaos. Coins were clipped, melted, forged, the economy bleeding from 1,000 hidden cuts. But Newton approached it like a scientist. He standardized weights, improved minting techniques, recalculated the entire coinage system, and he didn't just sit behind a desk. He went into the streets, tracked counterfeiters, built airtight cases, interrogated suspects. Some ended up on the gallows. The man who once mapped the heavens was now hunting criminals in the underworld, and even then, he held on to old rivalries. Robert Hooke, brilliant, stubborn, and sharp-tongued, had long been Newton's intellectual adversary. Hooke believed Newton had borrowed ideas about gravity from him. The two clashed publicly, bitterly, but Hooke died first, and Newton, now president of the Royal Society, made sure he had the last word. He allegedly removed Hooke's name from key documents, refused to credit him, and most famously, destroyed the only known portrait of Hooke. To this day, we don't know what Robert Hooke looked like, because Newton erased more than a man. He erased a legacy. It was a reminder that even the greatest minds carry human pride. And in Newton's world, there wasn't room for two giants. In 1705, Queen Anne knighted him. The restless boy who once carved sundials in silence was now Sir Isaac Newton. But behind the title was a man who lived almost entirely in his own mind. He never married, never had children. He left behind no letters of love, no family name to carry on. Only books, equations, and questions. His world was filled with stars and symbols, not people. And that's how he seemed to prefer it. He spent his final years walking the gardens of Kensington, still scribbling notes, still restless, but his body was slowing down, even if his mind never truly did. On March 20th, 1727, Isaac Newton died in his sleep. No public farewell, no great moment, just silence. But the silence didn't last. He was buried at Westminster Abbey, not far from kings, poets, and warriors. Among the immortals of Britain, Newton stood as one of the few whose power came not from sword or crown, but from thought. On his tomb, a Latin inscription reads, "Here lies that which was mortal of Isaac Newton." But everything that mattered, his ideas, his laws, his legacy, that was never mortal to begin with. Newton once wrote, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." But the truth, he became the shoulders. The man who gave the universe its rules, the mind that reached into the heavens and pulled out meaning. He was a scientist, a mystic, a seeker of patterns, whether written in stars or scripture. He was brilliant, obsessive, flawed, divine, human. He didn't just change science. He changed the way we see ourselves within the universe. And for that, he will never be forgotten. If you found this story as unforgettable as the man himself, there's more to come. Subscribe and join us as we uncover the forgotten minds and strange truths that shaped our world.